A lab in Cairo, 2010. Scientists in white coats are standing over a golden mummy that hasn't been touched in over 3,000 years. They aren't here for treasure. They aren't here to take photos. They are here to drill into the bones of the most famous pharaoh who ever lived and pull out his DNA. And when those results came back, the room went silent. Because what the code inside those ancient bones revealed didn't just surprise the scientists, it terrified the Egyptian government. Stay with me. Because in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you what they found, why it was almost buried forever, and what it means for every single person alive today. And before I go any further, drop a comment right now. Where in the world are you watching this from? And have you ever done a DNA ancestry test? What did it tell you? Because by the end of this video, your answer might hit very differently. Let's go back to the beginning. The year is 2010. A team of international scientists receives rare permission from the Egyptian government to do something nobody had been allowed to do before. Test the DNA of Egyptian royals, the actual royal mummies, including Tutankhamun. The team is led by Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's own Supreme Council of Antiquities chief. With him are Dr. Carsten Pusch from the University of Tübingen in Germany and Dr. Albert Zink from the Iraq Institute for Mummies in Bolzano, Italy. They work for 2 full years. When they test 16 royal mummies, they publish everything in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, one of the most trusted medical publications in the world. Dr. Hawass himself said, and I'm quoting directly, "This is the most important discovery since the finding of the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922. Let that sit for a second. The man who led the study called it the biggest find of the century. So what did they actually discover? Was the first thing the DNA told them was a family secret that nobody wanted to believe. Tutankhamun's parents were brother and sister, not distant relatives, not second cousins, full siblings, the same father, the same blood. That father was Pharaoh Akhenaten, the most radical king in Egyptian history, a man who threw out all the gods, declared himself divine, and married within his own bloodline to keep that divinity pure. But here is what DNA does to inbreeding. It destroys the body. Tutankhamun had a severe clubfoot. His left foot completely collapsed inward. His bones were brittle and riddled with disease. He had multiple bone fractures that never healed properly. And if that wasn't enough, he had malaria, the most dangerous kind. Tim Batty, general director of the Tutankhamun exhibition, confirmed, "The tests show that Tutankhamun had been infected with malaria, which may have killed him." Here is the thing that always stops people cold when they hear it. Scientists found 130 walking canes inside Tutankhamun's tomb. 130. The boy who sat on the most powerful throne on earth couldn't walk without a stick. The god king of the ancient world was in constant pain every single day of his short life. He died at 19 years old. But that, as shocking as it is not the part that made Egypt panic. Because when scientists looked at the Y chromosome inside Tutankhamun's bones, the genetic code passed from father to son. During generation to generation, it didn't match the Nile. It matched Western Europe. The haplogroup is called R1b. And today, R1b is found in roughly 50 to 70% of all men in Western Europe, England, France, Germany, Spain. A Swiss genetic company called iGenea ran the comparison and announced publicly, Tutankhamun and approximately half of Western European men today trace their paternal DNA back to the same common ancestor, a man who lived around 9,500 years ago. 9,500 years. And long before Egypt was even called Egypt. Now, Egyptian officials immediately pushed back hard. They refused to release the full raw genetic data so other scientists could independently verify it. Dr. Albert Zink, who was part of the original 2010 study team, warned publicly that without access to the primary data, this debate would never be settled properly. It still hasn't been. Think about what that means. Half the men watching this video right now, in Europe, in the Americas, or across the world, may carry the same paternal DNA signature as the most famous pharaoh in human history, and the data that could prove or disprove it, locked away. But Tutankhamun was just one king. And the DNA of a far more powerful pharaoh, the great warrior Rameses III, was about to drop something nobody could have predicted, and it took a murder to find it. Rameses III ruled Egypt for over 30 years. He defeated the Sea Peoples, one of the most feared invasion forces of the ancient world. He built temples, he expanded borders, his people called him a living god, and then, in the middle of the night, someone cut his throat. In 2012, a full forensic and genetic investigation was published in the British Medical Journal, one of the world's oldest and most respected medical journals. The team used CT scans, forensic measurements, physical analysis, and DNA testing. The CT scans showed a deep, clean wound across the throat of Rameses III, a sharp blade, fast and deliberate. Death would have been quick. But here is the detail that haunts you. During the mummification, the priest placed a small amulet, shaped like the Eye of Horus, directly inside the wound itself, a healing charm placed into the cut that killed him. They believed if they placed it there, he would be healed in the afterlife. Now here is where the DNA took over. It was right next to the body of Rameses. The third was another mummy. Unknown, no name, no inscription, just a label, Man E. And his face was frozen in a permanent expression of agony. Researchers ran DNA comparison tests. Rameses III and Man E shared the exact same Y chromosome, father and son. The scientists concluded with high confidence that Man E was almost certainly Prince Pentawere, Rameses III's own son, who had conspired with his mother in what ancient Egyptian texts call the harem conspiracy. On a plot to kill the king and seize the throne, the son killed the father, and they ended up buried side by side for 3,000 years. But the part that rewrote everything, the part that every headline missed, was the Y chromosome haplogroup result for Rameses III himself. E1B1A, a lineage with deep genetic roots in sub-Saharan West Africa. The same marker found with high frequency today in populations across West and Central Africa. The greatest warrior pharaoh of the ancient world. The man who ruled the Mediterranean, the god king of Egypt. His deepest paternal DNA echoed from the heart of Africa. So if the most powerful pharaohs weren't purely Egyptian in any simple, clean sense of the word, then what did ancient Egyptians actually look like, genetically? This question had been fought over for generations, loudly, politically, sometimes viciously. Then, in 2017, a landmark study changed the entire argument. Dr. Vera Schönemann from the University of Tübingen, Germany, and Dr. Johannes Krauss, director at Germany's Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, one of the world's top ancient DNA research centers, led a team that tested 90 ancient Egyptian mummies, bodies spanning over 1,400 years, from roughly 1400 BC to 400 AD, published in Nature Communications, one of the most cited science journals on the planet. Their result was sharp and clear. Ancient Egyptians were genetically closest to people from the ancient Near East, modern-day Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Israel, the Levant. Very minimal sub-Saharan African ancestry in these mummies. Dr. Krauss said directly, and I'm quoting, "If we don't find sub-Saharan African ancestry in those people, that is pretty representative, at least for Middle Egypt." And Wolfgang Hack, another lead scientist on the study, added something that hit harder than any headline. He said the genetic makeup of these people showed no significant shifts across 1,300 years of history. Not from Greek invasion, not from Roman rule. Armies came, languages changed, rulers rotated, but those genes, they stayed. Now, here is the part nobody talks about. Modern Egyptians carry 15 to 20% sub-Saharan African DNA. The ancient mummies carried almost none. Somewhere between those ancient people and today, a major genetic change happened to the population of the Nile Valley. When and why? The same 2017 study used a statistical model called ALDER to calculate the timing. Now, the estimate came out at roughly 24 generations ago, around the year 700 AD. That period in history saw major shifts, the expansion of new empires across North Africa, growing trade routes across the Sahara, population movements that had never happened at that scale before. The Nile Valley began absorbing people from the south, not all at once, but over time, significantly. Now, pay attention here, because this next part is something almost nobody talks about. Every mummy tested in that 2017 study, every single one, was from the New Kingdom or later. That's roughly 3,500 years ago onward. What about the original Egyptians? The ones who actually built the first pyramids? The ones who laid the very first stones at Giza? Nobody had their DNA. Until July 2025, when a pair of ancient teeth broke a silence that had lasted almost 5,000 years. July 2025. A study published in Nature, the most prestigious science journal on Earth. A team from the Francis Crick Institute in the UK and Liverpool John Moores University had done something that took 40 years of failed attempts before it was finally possible. They extracted and fully sequenced the first complete genome from an ancient Egyptian of the Old Kingdom era, a man who lived 4,500 to 4,800 years ago, the age of the first pyramids. Dr. Adeline Moores-Jacobs, the lead scientist from Liverpool John Moores University, said, "By piecing together all the evidence from this individual's DNA, bones, and teeth, we were able to construct a detailed profile, one that allows us to begin clarifying the timing of migrations from West Asia." And here is what the profile showed. This man was old. His bones carried the scars of a physically brutal life, heavy labor, years of it. His DNA broke down like this: approximately 78 to 80% North African ancestry, and around 20% from the ancient Fertile Crescent, the Mesopotamian world of modern-day Iraq and Syria. This man lived when the pyramids were brand new, and his blood already carried 2 continents inside it. Dr. Joel Irish, a dental anthropologist on the same team, measured the skull. The physical characteristics matched most closely with ancient West Asian populations. Dr. Iosif Lazaridis from Harvard University responded to the study publicly, and he said, "It is now evident that extracting DNA from individuals at the dawn of Egyptian civilization is feasible, allowing us to begin documenting the genetic history of Egypt." The dawn. He said the dawn, because even this 4,800-year-old pyramid builder is not Egypt's beginning. There were people living on the Nile 10,000 years ago, before any pharaoh, before any pyramid, before any dynasty ever existed. Communities, rituals, burials, gods whose names we don't know, or their DNA has never been sequenced, their genome has never been read. We have absolutely no idea who they were, where they came from, or what language they spoke. The 2025 Nature study hints that migrations from Mesopotamia may have actually sparked the rise of Egyptian civilization itself, the writing systems, the farming, the large-scale architecture, a cultural wave that brought people with it. But that is still a hypothesis, not proven, not confirmed. The pyramids are the most photographed structures on the surface of this planet. We know their measurements to the centimeter. We know the exact angle of their shadows on the winter solstice. But we still do not know the full genetic identity of the people whose hands built them. And now, here is the part I want you to sit with. If Tutankhamun carried a gene found in half of Europe's men, if Rameses III carried a lineage rooted in West Africa, if the pyramid builders were already mixing Mesopotamian and North African blood 4,800 years ago, and if modern Egyptians picked up a new wave of sub-Saharan ancestry 700 years ago, then ancient Egypt was never one thing. It was always a crossroads, a place where the world's bloodlines came and mixed and built, something that still stands today. Dr. Professor Albert Zink, the biological anthropologist from the Urac Institute in Italy who has studied these mummies for decades, said it plainly. Ancient Egypt proves that there's DNA preserved in these mummies that connects to populations scattered across the world today. If you are North African, you likely carry their signal. If you are Levantine, you carry a deeper thread. If you are East African, the Nile ran through your ancestors too. And if you are Western European, there is a statistical chance, confirmed by multiple researchers, that a pharaoh's paternal line runs through your DNA right now. Drop in the comments. Tell me, has your ancestry test ever surprised you? Have you ever found a connection you never expected? Because 5,000 years ago, Egypt was already proving that identity is not about flags or borders or the color of a kingdom's walls. DNA is the only archive that never lies. And it has been quietly carrying this story, waiting for us to finally read it. But But here is what I need to leave you with. Everything we've uncovered tonight, every study, every result, every shocking haplogroup, came from mummies that are less than 5,000 years old. The people who came before them? Still silent. Somewhere in the desert of Egypt, there are graves older than any pharaoh. There are bones that predate every dynasty, every king list, every monument. And nobody has read their DNA yet. When that day comes, and it is coming, because the science is advancing faster now than at any point in human history, the answer buried in those bones might rewrite not just Egypt's story, it might rewrite yours. Because in the next episode, we travel even further back, to a stone temple built 7,000 years before the pyramids, Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. And the genetic thread that connects its builders to the Nile Valley is something no school ever taught you. You are not going to want to miss it.